So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Delta Science Program Brown Bag Seminar, jointly hosted by Delta Science Program Ecosystem Restoration and Surface Water Ambient Monitoring Program. My name is Joe Ariyama, and I coordinate Brown Bag Seminar for the Delta Science Program. And thank you very much all to be here and on WebEx today. So today's presenter is Amye Osti. She is CEO and founder of 34 North, and is responsible for bringing OpenNRM natural resource management software suite to market, as well as build a vibrant open source community. OpenNRM is a collaboration management software platform for all stakeholders, including resource managers, policymakers, and scientists, ecologists, engineers, educators, and the public to view data, tell data stories, manage projects, share documents, view science, and share knowledge. An open, collaborative, and interoperative platform will enable resource managers and stakeholders to address the difficult resource challenges while freeing up significant financial resources for an on-the-ground project that will restore our environment. And OpenNRM Enterprise is currently used to manage collaborative efforts between USGS, US Fish and Wildlife, and US Bureau Reclamation, US ACE, MWD, and DWR, and State Water Resource Control Board, EPA, and many others in the California Delta. Okay, let's shortcut it. So before joining 34 North, Amye was an executive producer of entertainment websites for Paramount Pictures, Warner Brothers, and many other companies. So I guess we want to start ahead to save some more time for presentation. Please join me in welcoming Amye.
Yes.
Hello? Can you hear me now? Okay. Okay. All right. Can everyone hear me out there okay? If not, I'll scream louder. Microphones, I always mess them up. Hello. Welcome, and thank you for spending your lunch with me. I was up all night preparing. I haven't eaten, so whatever you have left over, just leave right here on the counter for me. I'll take it. Just kidding. 34 North and OpenNRM, Open Collaborative Resource Management Software Suite. I'm going to be talking about that today briefly in a presentation, but then I'm going to get into a live demo. I think a lot of you are here to actually figure out how you can explore data, manage data in the Delta. So we're going to spend some time actually digging into the software itself and looking at the data itself. So OpenNRM is a collaborative resource management software application that functions as a workspace, but also as a project management application for data collection, analysis, reporting, and visualization. OpenNRM Enterprise is made up of a bunch of different modules that you can pair together based on your needs, mapping and GIS, document management, project management, web services and RSS, real-time monitoring or explore data management tools, and simulation engines so you can do certain visualizations. So the OpenNRM workspaces are being used to build data stories and manage data for spatial data, observation data. The site content, you'll see we build out a full document management library at various scales. So you can do site-level analysis, regional-level analysis, and system-wide analysis. And right now, the application is being used for collaborative science projects, which we'll show you, regional monitoring efforts, ecosystem restoration projects, estuary management, just data visualization, generic data visualization, publication management, species observations, and operations management. Specific for this talk, I just want to talk about the collaborative efforts that are happening here in California in this Sacramento-San Joaquin watershed. This collaborative effort is a combination of a bunch of different stakeholders. It's actually a grassroots movement to organize and manage data, to answer questions, to make data stories, and to actually attend to the needs of various stakeholders, which we'll talk about in detail. So a lot of the projects and a lot of the stuff that we do with OpenNRM has to do on a per project basis, and all that information is shared back with the community. So this collaborative effort is a bunch of different portals. We have Bay Delta Live, which I'll go into detail with today. We have the California Estuaries Work Group that focuses on the California estuaries and a lot of the species data, and GIS and water quality data with the California estuaries. The California Estuaries Workspace and Portal is the engine behind the My Water Quality Portal's estuary site. We have the San Joaquin Water Quality RMP and the San Joaquin Real-Time Management, where they're using the software to manage salinity real-time in the San Joaquin River Basin. And then we have the 1641 Interactive, which is the California Department of Water Resources answer the report that they have to publish annually that goes over all of their EMP data and other data sets. So building on each other's programs is what I want to emphasize here. So each region's needs are very different. The stakeholder collaborations are different. Data aggregation and data management needs are different. The data analysis, visualizations, mapping, and GIS, they're all different. There's just a lot that goes on in each of the regions, and if you go down to the scale of just a small piece of property, then there's a lot of information just with that alone. The regional document libraries are very different. Operation dashboards are very different at each region. The ecosystem project, special studies, they have their own web services, and then they all have their own regulatory reporting needs. So, for example, in the San Joaquin River, they're having to deal with TMDLs at Vernalis, something that isn't necessarily happening in the Sac River watershed. So there's a lot of information that supports all of those particular regions, and that's why it's been best that each individual region has had their own instance of OpenNRM, and they've been able to set it up, and then each one of those portals can share all of their information with each other for a better system-wide view. So the benefits of this grassroots individual sort of federated system is that we're learning each one of the portal groups is benefiting and learning from each other's efforts. So, for example, the monitoring programs, learning from each other how they're monitoring or how they're answering questions, how they're dealing with their own assessment efforts. We've been able to take a lot of our templates and share them throughout each region, and they just tweak it so that, oh, this is how our criteria, this is the information that we need to use. But we can use the rest of that information to answer a better question, so they don't have to start over from scratch. So there's a lot of benefit for that each portal group is sharing with each other. So all investments are contributed back to the community. So all content, GIS data sets, and mapping tools are contributed back to the core software. So if there's one investment made by the Bureau of Reclamation in the San Joaquin, then the Delta benefits from it, the Sac River benefits from it. Data is also managed at the regional level and shared with all stakeholders for a larger watershed assessment and analysis. So what we'll show you in the demo is that a lot of the data sets are coming from those regional programs and is not necessarily being hosted on the one site. So the data stewards remain the data stewards. So the first one I wanted to talk to you about was the San Joaquin Regional Monitoring Program and the Real-Time Management Program. So they've contributed over 50 data sets for multi-stakeholder views. They've contributed a lot of information for real time. So the CMIS data set was actually all that work that was built around CMIS is now part of the larger community because of the San Joaquin Regional Monitoring Program. They are currently doing a lot of model ingest and visualization. So there's a lot of development that's happening in OpenNRM to help you look at model results. That's being contributed back to the core software so that others can use it for ingesting other model inputs. And Also, data dashboards. They've done a lot of work on data dashboards, different templates and layouts and data combinations that other regions can use as well. The California Estuaries Portal has given at least 15 to 20 data sets to the overall effort. They have answered over 85 pages worth of questions, so the work group itself has gone through, sifted through all the data, sifted through all the information, and written an answer for over 85 questions that are currently on the My Water Quality portal. The Source project for critical estuary data, so the EMP data, the estuary GIS, the 1641, and the trawl data has been part of this effort. There's a large ongoing effort for the Estuary Wiki, and they've done a lot of custom GIS files that the rest of the community can use. All right, so let's get into Bay Delta Live. So the Bay Delta Live work group collaborators, this is a newly formed work group, and the work group is responsible for directing development and new data investments. It's the Bureau of Reclamation, NOAA, NIMS, USGS, DWR, MWD, State and Federal Water Contractors, Fish and Wildlife, State Water Resources Control Board, and the ag industry. So Bay Delta Live has had over 25,000 unique visitors in the last year, and that we sifted through that data to make sure that that data was really accurate and people were spending a decent amount of time on the site using it for downloads, using it for the data dashboard. We have over 400 registered users. We have over 1,500 images, documents, and research articles at your disposal for download. All of this information is available to the public. 100 plus ecosystem projects, 250 downloadable data sets, and a bunch of feed libraries, which we'll also show you that are coming from other places. So Bay Delta Live is data central to the Delta, so all the information that you see and use is, you'll notice, is very central to the Delta. It has extensive libraries, so we have wiki libraries, libraries, we have a publication section. There's real-time reporting dashboards for water quality, for turbidity. These dashboards are all part of collaborative efforts of either work groups or teams of people that have needed a certain amount of data aggregation so that they can answer certain questions in operations or for ecosystem restoration. We do weekly survey results and fish tracking. So in addition to the trawls, we're working on the acoustic telemetry studies that are out there. So there's a dashboard for actually watching where all the fish are, how they're working their way through the system, and we'll show you that as well. There's news aggregation, there's collaboration workspace, so you can create an account, you can sign up and then build teams, create your own project pages, upload your own documents, keep everything private if you want. A lot of people do that. They have extensive libraries for everything and they just keep everything private, but if you do make it public, it ends up in the public library for others to use. We have an extensive ecosystem project library, and there's a Delta community section where you can learn about what's going on in the Delta, and you can post and view model results. So Explore Data, I'm going to go through this quickly because we're going to give you a live demo of everything. So Explore Data, we have CDEC, NWIS, CMIS, and CDIN currently linked in, so those are giant data sets that you can use. We have an extensive data catalog, so in addition to the spatially available data where you can sift through it and compare all the data sets together, the data catalog has 250 plus data sets where you can go into the catalog and download them for your own purposes. There's real-time data, there's a bunch of discrete data, so all of the EMP data, the trawl data, CDIN, we have over 250 GIS layers, operations data, and Flow X2. So this just gives you a quick view at the Explore Data section. This is what we'll be demoing shortly. And this shows you how you can spatially review the data, find it on the map. This is electrical conductivity. Each point on the map has a call out where you can look at the time series based on the time extent that you set using the controls in the Explore Data section. Unique to a lot of the spatial software that's out there, DDL and the other portals have an extensive document management system, and that's because we believe you need more than a map. You're going to be able to tell your spatial story, but you have all this documentation, images, data sets, and everything else that you want to be able to attach to it. So from this document library, you can add as many documents as you want. You can geolocate so that you can do a search in a specific area using the map to find out which documents were published in that area. So if you're doing a study in the lower YOLO and you want to do a search for any documents in the lower YOLO, you can turn the map extent on and then just hit map view, and all of those documents will load there, and we'll show you how you can do that. Customizable metadata, images, reports. We support over 200 different file types, so you don't have to, you're not stuck with just JPEGs and PDFs. Easy portability, so you can associate all the documents that are in your catalog throughout the site, so you can associate them to projects and data visualizations. Dashboards, obviously the public-private feature. You can sync everything with your mobile apps on, if you have a iPhone, there's a Delta Live mobile app out there, and then the HTML templates for supporting descriptions and documentation. This will just give you a quick view of the document library. Next is projects. Projects are very similar to documents. You can customize your metadata. You can add all your images, videos, reports, data sets, data dashboards. There's the community features similar to Facebook where you can add comments. You know what the last upload was, so what's going on with your project, and then you can find out everything on your phone. You can invite members to your project so you can keep your project private, invite your members, and then everyone can collaborate when you're ready. You can just turn it to public, and then it's a public resource. And also the HTML templates, so you can make really nice informational pages. This is an example of the Cache Blue region project layout. This here is a collaborative project for fish tracking, so understanding juvenile salmon entrainment. You can see on the right you have your recent updates, what's happening, you have the newest uploads, the basic description, and then the tabs across the top. And what they do is they show you an article that is written by your group. You can have an image library for your project. And last, this is a data dashboard that's associated specific for this project. So this project is private. You can go in, and that fish tracking dashboard is at the end, and that's only available for the collaborators. So the dashboard was set up for that group. Then there's the mapping and GIS tools, so explore and analyze GIS layers. It's nice to not just use the Google satellite base map. You can go in and turn on different layers to help tell your data story a little bit differently than you normally would just using the Google Maps API. So you can go into the GIS layers, turn them on, change transparency, manage the order of them, and see if you have your perfect base map. Save it, it's in your map library, and you can use that whenever you're doing data analysis, that particular base map if you want. There's already, I think, 50 or 60 decent maps in the library already. And this just shows you exactly that. So this is a Esri topo with the water diversions, a water file, and the Liga Delta outline. And on the left, you can see how you can manage and query, check your metadata. You can get the WMS URL, so you can actually share that with other software or whatever you want with it, and then layer properties, and that's on the Active tab. This shows you can combine data with your maps. And this just shows you can consume just about any Esri WMS or WFS layer into there's add new right there on the top, and it will ask you, do you want to add a WMS or a WFS? So any web services, map web services, you can add them to your library and then use that as your base map if you don't like anything that's in there. Okay, then the last part of this is of the visualizations are that we allow you to use the real-time data, the discrete data, the GIS, and all your content in the content management system to create data stories and make visualizations. So this is an example of a turbidity multi-parameter visualization looking at flow, the flow arrows change based on the CFS of the flow. Then you have the interpolation of turbidity. Wind is also part of this map, and there's all these different ways of looking at data in one map, and then you can turn it all on together and save that into your visualization library. So we'll demo this for you as well. So lastly, using all the tools that I just went through, you can create data dashboards. The data dashboards allow you to take the things that you are building in the document library, in the map library, in the visualization library, and in the explored data part, so that you can start to piece together a data story for looking at data according to your needs. This shows you the USDR Fish Release 2015. You have all of the important GIS locations that they're using, so the different receiver networks. You can see where the flow network is, so we have some of the real-time stations in there as well. And then everything on that map is graphed on the right, and then we ran filters on them for doing daily sums or 30-day sums for unique detection, and then corresponded it with either water temperature or river discharge, or just looking at water temperature and river discharge together. These were just ways that the group wanted to see the data compared, and so we customized this dashboard for them specifically for that purpose. This shows you that on these dashboards, everything is interactive, so everything on the map has a rollover, so you can get into the detail of each individual point. So that point data is just telling you that's the daily sum of unique detections at that station. And then below, all of the information that's loaded on this particular dashboard is also available in the bottom graph as an interactive graph. And you can go ahead and start making new graphs or comparing the data side by side. Most of you are probably familiar with these data dashboards. They're already on BDL under operations. This is the turbidity conditions in the delta. So we're not only visualizing turbidity, we're looking at the operations summary. We're looking at key data, and then you have access to flow and discharge and turbidity for the interactive graph, and then all of the reservoir conditions. So a lot of these dashboards are pulling upward of 50 different data sets from all over the place and putting it in one format so that you can see what's going on with turbidity. This is just showing you the second tab of that same dashboard of all of the hydrology conditions. Everything that's in a table is also available in a graph. And then the regulatory reporting. So those dashboards are also used to set up interactive reporting for regulatory needs. This one in particular is the 1641 interactive, and that's doing the environmental monitoring program data. And then lastly, data stories, a new feature that we're allowing users to do. So you can set up a data story, and we'll show you exactly how to do that. So you can take all the visualizations and maps and actually start to write out a story. And this particular story is talking about managing salinity in the Sacramento-San Joaquin Delta during a drought. And in addition to all the visualizations, it has a fully interactive publication piece and the real-time data, the data visualization, the GIS, and the all the photos and images. So we'll show you the live version of that. This is an example of question templates that are currently being used, so answering questions with all the data. This one is talking about, does water temperature support Chinook salmon migration in the San Joaquin River? So using all of the images in the image library, we're able to come up with a nice look and feel for answering that question, setting up tables using the HTML templates, and then also looking at interactive maps and graphs embedded in your article so that you can continue to tell that story with the data that's available on the site. And special studies is another application that you can use with all of the data that's out there. This is used for the fish tracking research. So before the acoustic telemetry study, we were just trying to figure out analyzing fish tracks and fish behavior. So there was a project and a special study set up for that. So another example, looking at data spatially on the map and then be able to associate it with a graph. And lastly, we have the real-time TMDL management, and this is looking at taking the warmth model online. So if you're familiar with any of the modeling for salinity that's happening in the San Joaquin region, there is a model called the warmth model, and we go out using the data tools that we have and do a daily grab to over 250 data sets. Grab that data and package it for one file that can be downloaded and consumed by the warmth model that's being used by DWR and some other agencies. They take that data package, they run the model internally, and then they output the file and upload it to the site. The site automatically knows that what that model output is, and it runs the data visualization. And this just shows you, similar to the salinity and turbidity interpolations, it actually is a grid file over the San Joaquin River network, and each one of those tiny polygons has a weighted value based on the model, so you can actually see the turbidity conditions in the San Joaquin River in real time. Then we take the forecast and you can forecast it out. So what's happening is that the stakeholders are using this visualization along with all the associated graph data to understand how the salinity the conditions are in the river at that time, what they expect it to be in the next 5 to 10 days, and then they can make decisions internally on when they want to discharge their own discharging into the San Joaquin. Okay, lastly is the mobile app, which I already talked about. You can go on to into the Apple Store and get the Day Delta Live app. The mobile app is awesome because you can get on-demand notifications for all kinds of things. You just set your push notifications for any alerts for operations, hydrologic conditions, reservoir conditions, fish facilities information, real-time data, and a bunch of other stuff. So if you'd like to get notified every single morning on what's happening in the Delta, then the app is the way to go. All right, so we're going to go ahead and start our demo. Okay, so this is the Day Delta Live homepage. We highlight every month a new set of topics. Managing salinity in the drought is an example. It takes you to a dashboard. This is an ecosystem project page. But instead of digging into all the aspects of Day Delta Live right now, we're just going to focus on exploring data. So we'll start with the data catalog, and the data catalog is just a way to familiarize yourself with the different data sets that you can download right there. And this is just a place where you can go get the data, the metadata, and then download the data set yourself. And you have the search and filter information on the left. You have this drop-down called data source. So what you see on the right-hand side right now is all the data that's local to Day Delta Live. In the data source drop-down, you have all of the data feeds. So we have the estuary work group, phytoplankton images. We have the San Joaquin River RMP data set. You have the San Joaquin River image library. So if we go and just do a quick look, let's do the California Estuary Work Group data set. And this just shows all this information is stored on the California Estuary Workgroup website, but you have access to it here. So it's maintained by that group, and you can download those data sets and get all of its metadata. And these feeds can go on and on forever. It's up to the other portals. You can do images, publications, anything you want to customize on the other portals to share these feeds with the other groups. So we'll go back to the search and list view. And we'll just look at one data set. We'll do phytoplankton Bay Delta monitoring. Each data set has its metadata as defaulted as its article. It has its recent activity so that you can find out if anything's changed, if short description, the newest uploads that are associated with that particular data set, the contacts and the agency sources. You have documents associated with that data set. So this particular data set has images of all the particular phytoplankton so you can visualize what that phytoplankton looks like. And then you can look at it in the images video catalog as well. So you can just sift through and say, oh, they have this particular diatom. And lastly, on the map, this one doesn't have a map saved to it. Some of them have maps saved to them where they actually pinpoint all the locations of where this particular data is collected. The tools menu allows you to do lots of things with that data. You can share the data, download it. If you are the owner of that data set, you can edit it. You can add more information to it. You can add it to your basket. That's a cool feature because then if you have a project that you're working on in your project library, you add that data set to your basket, go to your project, go to that tools menu, and then drop that data set on that project, and all of a sudden you have your project with all your data sets associated with it. So it's really easy to move stuff around and make associations. You can get the URL, so as a web service, and then the permalink, and then obviously delete it. So that's the gist of the data catalog. It's just a place where you can go and find out more information about data sets and download them. But if you want to spatially view all of the data and compare it with other data set and use graphs, you go to the Explore Data section in the website. So Explore Data has a bunch of different shortcuts in the sub-menu. It has ways of looking at hydrodynamics. So if you don't want to dig through the different the nesting files of all of the data, you can just start looking at hydrodynamics. This helps people if they don't understand things like how NWIS subcategorizes this stuff and CDEX subcategorizes. So because there's a lot of data parameters, there's hundreds and hundreds of them, especially when you start looking into NWIS. And meteorological, water quality, and then popular stations, and then lastly, if you need some help, there's a little pop-up there that will walk you through everything you need to do to explore data. We're going to start, let's start by just saying, let's look at something basic like GIS. And the GIS is under layers, and you can change your base maps. We've got a bunch of different base maps from OpenStreetMap to Google to Esri, and like I said, you can add your own WMS base layer if you want to in the map library. But for now, we'll just use one. I don't know which one he picked. And then you have the California Delta layers. That's the Castle data set. So there's all of the Delta Atlas information is in there. You have your bridges and ferry routes and infrastructure and all your water polygons and mine files and rivers. So you can start to have a lot of fun just building maps and referencing where things are. Once you've made your map, you have the option, obviously, to zoom in and zoom out. You can draw and measure on your map, or you can just save it and it asks you for your metadata. You can fill it all in. And on the Publish tab, it's important to know is where you have the option to say who may access it. Is it me or is it everyone? And so if you're going to make it available to everyone, great. That means they might look at it or share it or add it to their basket and put it on their project. And you can figure out how you want to view your stuff, either by defaulting the tabs on your asset page, and then you save it. And we'll just reset the whole map. Is that yours? And where it ends up is in your maps catalog. There it is, the brown bag demo map, and you can go and view that. And it will load your saved map for you. So if you leave that map on, it will follow you everywhere throughout the site. That's just because you're allowed to go through everywhere. And like, for example, you're allowed to go into a project page and you still can have that map view under there. If you don't want that map view anymore, you just hit the reset button. It's in your map tools and you can start from scratch. So that's just making a map. Now we'll go on to exploring the spatial data. So this will be CDEC, USGS, NWIS, CMIS, and the Castle Library, and then we have a bunch of other discrete data. But we're going to just start with looking at, let's see, I think what we'll do is we'll zoom in around Frank's track and we'll turn on flow. Recently, I believe there was a barrier installed there, so we might be able to take a look at what's happening with flow in that particular area. So he went ahead and he set his start and end date. He set a 30-day duration. So he just knew automatically, I want to look at the last 30 days. So you don't even have to mess with start and end date if you choose a duration. So right now, all of the stations in this area are loading. You can tell by the top. So as you can see, all of the stations have loaded. The way we've configured the flow visualizations to work is that the size of the arrow changes. This was at the request of USGS, so that the size and direction change based on the time step as you're going through the visualization, so that you know when the tides are going one way or another and how much CFS are actually flowing through. Then you can turn on other parameters on top of that. So you can start to look at electrical conductivity, you can look at turbidity, or any of the other hundreds of stations, but the more common ones would probably be EC, since the barrier was there for electrical conductivity. So once you have, once you've had all your stations are loaded on your map, similar to the last application, you can go ahead and push save, and that preset, so that data preset is now a saved map in your map library. So when you go into your map library and you go and grab that map, let's just say I'm looking at Flow EC at Frank's track as the title on it, you click on it and it will go grab the data for the last 30 days up until that moment that you turn that map on. So it's a data preset as well. All right, so what he's showing you now is that we have two different stations loaded on the map, or sensors loaded on the map. And each of one of those rollovers has extensive metadata there. You can download the data on the rollovers. There's the time series data if you want to download it. You can graph it. You can print, so that there's a small menu there where you can actually download images or the data from that as well. And then the metadata for that particular station. So now that you have everything loaded on the map, you may want to get a little more involved and start to graph some of the data. So we're going to hit the graphing tab that's in the center, right next to map. He's choosing a station. He chose flow, Old River. He's going to do a line graph and then draw that particular graph. The graphing options at the top of the screen allow you to do various graph types. So you can do spline graphs, pie charts. You can do all various different types. It also allows you to add either overlays onto your data or do new graphs or tile all of the stations. So let's say you just want to see every single flow station in a tile line graph. Now he's saying, I want to see all stations. And this will take a sec because it's 30 days. So now you have all of the stations here loaded for you, and you can see which stations. A lot of times the software is used by those running the sensor network to actually test their stations to see if there's any errors in the data or at the sensor itself. So we can go back, reset that, and if you want to compare, let's just say you do that same flow graph at Old River, and then you want to look at electrical conductivity in the same area. You probably want to do a new graph, and then you have that data comparison between the two. And so all of these graphs, you can save them in, just like your maps, you can save them into your document library. You can save all of these graphs. You can add plot lines. So if you know exactly where you think your CFS needs to be, and then you want to share that with somebody on your team, either by dropping that graph on your project or by just emailing it to them, you can do that. So what he's doing now is he's drawing a plot line, and you can draw plot line labels. And yeah, so you can do this all day long with all of the real-time data and with EMIS and whatnot. We'll move into the EMP data now. I only have 5 more minutes, so we'll just quickly do EMP data just to show you. So we're going to go into discrete lab data, and we'll look at chlorophyll A and phenolphthalein. Right there, the date-time extent. If you want to look at the entire length of the data set, you just double-click on the date-time extent right there, and it will automatically set that up in your calendar so that you don't have to actually go and manually set the start and end date. And then you can go in and pick what your analyte is going to be. He chose chlorophyll A, and now is doing a search for that data. You can see all the stations that came back, and we're looking right now at from January 1975 to June 2012. This data set is now going to be updated in the next few months, just so you guys know. But we're also assisting the Department of Water Resources and the IEP group to set up web services for this particular data set. This one we're hosting. So there you go. You have the EMP data, same formula as the last one. You can load the stations. Each station has all of the data back to 1975. You can get a view of what's happening at that station using the map and the rollovers, or you can get into detail using the graphing tab. So right now he's adding phenolphthalein. So that you can start to compare water quality trends at a specific area. And same, you could save this map right here with all of its stations, and it'll end up in your map library. So if you need to just go back, oh, I need to go see what was going on with a particular sensor or analyte, store it in your library, and it's always there for you, and you can go back and use it. So he's showing you now, he's clicking on the sensor, and he's toggling between the two sensor types because the sampling happens at the same location. And then he can use the graphing tab to do data comparison. And that one particular example, he did an overlay. Okay, so does anyone have any questions about exploring data, just using the data sets itself and saving a data set? So I can move quickly into data stories, whatnot? Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay, so so you can see that there's a lot of tools here. You have your document library, you have your project library, you have your ability to explore the data and save it as graphs or visualizations. Visualizations is a workshop on its own. The actual tools for setting up interpolations and point models and different things probably takes about an hour to go through. But the work group is putting together training sessions for everyone to get that knowledge if you'd like. So with using all these different tools and these different assets throughout the site, you think, well, now that I have all these pieces, I can put together a data story. And this is an example that where you could see where we made an EC visualization. We loaded all the EC stations, and this particular piece of the data story is just talking about what is salinity and understanding salinity, and the associated map with it is just real-time salinity. What are the conditions right now in the delta for salinity? The data story, you can lay them out. This particular template allows you to tab information, so what is salinity, and then you can add all this information using your articles. And then on the right-hand side, you have your interactive map. Then you move into, okay, so now I understand what salinity is. Well, what are people doing to manage salinity? And this is where you get into another visualization where you have the interpolation over the last 7 days of what salinity is doing. And then the tabs on the top start talking about, well, this is how we're managing salinity in the delta right now. Drought conditions are asking us to do these certain controls, and the mitigation strategies are as such, and everything within your text is linkable. So if you want to, oh, well, one of the strategies is we can reduce export pumping, we can open the delta cross channel gates, and you can contextualize your stories and start to zoom in into the areas so that you can start to orient the users of what's going on in this complex system. And then the last is the key ops locations. This is just shows you another template of, there's a bunch of different, so here's all, we uploaded a bunch of images of key operation locations in the Delta and in California, Shasta and Folsom being other places, so that you can zoom in and start to take a look using the map with all of the images spatially located throughout. And each one of those has a rollover so you can get more information about what it is that they're working on. The navigation across the top lets you go through the entire map, but it helps orient people and get a better understanding what a pumping plant is, what is Frank's tract, what is going on at the Delta Cross Channel and things like that. So you can start to see that, oh, I just went in and made a cool map with all of my images all over it, and then I added some real-time stations on top of that. Now in my article, I'm just going to link up everything that I'm talking about so that people can be referenced with it, can make reference to it using the map. And then the last thing, since my time is almost up here, is I just wanted to show you the salmon view. So this one is a cool map story, and basically it's another iteration of how Chinook salmon and temperature, how it all works together. And so you can start to draft a really cool story about the Chinook salmon and then use your map stories on the right to tell your story. And basically the station, what you're seeing right there are all the NWIS stations that we loaded. So the NWIS data set is national. You can find out what's going out everywhere. It's not just centralized to California. So you can find out what's happening with the temperature stations in the entire range of the salmon. and find out more salmon conditions. And you can see, if you scroll down, you can embed all the graphs that you've been making and visualizations and reference documents and everything you can possibly build to tell your data story. The good thing is that everything is archived in your library. You decide you don't like it, you can start over, because you just have to go to your basket, add everything in there, and then drop it on there. But building data stories is also for another tutorial. So I just wanted to familiarize you with how to explore data and actually use the data in Bay Delta Live. If you don't already have an account, feel free to sign up and play around with it, save graphs, save data presets, and there's a feedback comment at the bottom of the page. So the next phases of Bay Delta Live is left entirely up to this new work group that's been assembled to go through, and it's a multi-agency collaboration, and they're asking what new data sets would you like to see next, what new features would you like to see next, and how can we move everything forward in a manner, because there's a lot of different tasks already on the table that will suit everyone in the group. And then as far as open sourcing, we're lucky enough to be moving forward with that a lot faster than we have in the past. It's quite an investment to get that out there. But it is the intention of 34 North to get OpenNRM in the open source community. We have added Ken Bosong from OpenGeo to our team, and also some people from the open source community that are gods in our eyes have joined our team to help us write the papers. Carl Fogel is one of them, to get all of our documentation out and ready to go, because it is quite a substantial application for a release on something like GitHub. But that's the plan in that. Questions?
So if you have a question, you please speak to the microphone. So.
Oh, yeah. So to sign up, if you're just on the home page, Dave will show you quickly. It's pretty straightforward. Just go to the login button on the upper right part of the screen, and you'll see below there the new user sign up. You'll get an email and confirmation. You have to click on it to activate your account, just like with any other community-based group.
Yeah, so I guess a lot of the data visualization and spatial visualization tools that are really some stuff I'm excited to play around with more. A lot of that is what I've been traditionally using, other statistical packages and ArcGIS on my desktop for, I guess, what type of user do you see using this primarily as their data visualization?
I see it being both. In your situation where you're already familiar with R or ArcGIS or any of those, that you're able to create some good products to actually put on Bay Delta Live, so that you can take some of your awesome maps and upload them so that other people can use some model outputs, so some statistical tools. So we're looking at doing a lot of analysis of fish life cycles, and we're using R scripts to actually program some of the stuff that we're doing in Bay Delta Live. So I see it being both.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so we have a question from someone who's connected through WebEx, and they asked, what are the browser requirements for like plugins?
There are none. if you use GR, there's the basic time series analysis in Explore Data, and there is another tool that's little smatterings of it throughout the site. It's called GR. It's a graphing application. It's a good example of the open architecture and being able to use open source together. So this tool was developed by USGS. It does awesome time series analysis, and he just brought it up right there. That requires a Java plugin. So I know a lot of the agencies block Java, but it is a great resource if you've decided that you want to just take this time series kind of beyond the fluffy look and feel stuff that you see here and get into real analysis, run filters on your data, run averages, and then once you've done all of your analysis, then you can actually clean up a lot of the CDEC data using this time series tool in Delta Live. Then you can save this, and it ends up as a preset in your doc library. So that you go back to your document library and say, oh, I want to pull up this data combination of flow and electrical conductivity, and I already had it all cleaned, and I had all the filters running, but I want to see what's happening. You click on that, and it will launch this GR interface that has your graph saved. But other than that, there are no browser restrictions. I'm sure there's a little bit of work to be done in IE, but Java.
Hi. So I have a question. How does it link with some of the data sets that have like habitat restoration data? For example, the Eco Atlas. Is there a link?
There is not a link at this point. So I think that if the Eco Atlas data set have a web service at this point, that would be how we link with everything, how we link with CDEC, CDN, is if there's a web service available, then we can consume it, and so long as that web service has lat long and, titles and a link back to Eco Atlas, and we could consume that project database easily, and it's still maintained and everything is handled by that data provider. We really prefer it if everything was based on web services and that the stewards of the data keep it, because they're the best at making sure that all of the QA/QC is maintained and everything else. That's why all the trawl data for the Delta juvenile fish monitoring, we're working with their Denver office to set up web services for that whole trawl data set, because hosting is not. So my answer would be, if there's a web service, I can show you how to add it.
And one more question. You mentioned that you have like multiple subgroups that are using your website, and then they kind of build what they want to have, but also that they can learn from each other.
Yeah.
So what is the link, or who is making that connection between multiple user groups, I guess? Is that the company, or are there people who are sitting on both, or all of them?
The work groups have a lot of crossover. So obviously we have been facilitating a lot of the education of what's possible. Hey, you don't need to redo that, it's already over here. Let's just take these templates and use it. So for example, the Sacramento River watershed is going to use most of the templates that are being used throughout the rest of the watershed, but they have ideas to build a brand new one that they think is great that's going to be contributed back for other people to use. So the crossover happens, one, through us helping inform all of the stakeholders, but the work groups have a lot of crossover based on whatever they're in. So the San Joaquin groups have an interest in what's happening at certain points in the Delta. The Sacramento River has interest in the Delta. So they all eventually end up talking to each other.
Okay, so it's already 1, so we have to count the questions here. Before we leave, so our next seminar, a brown bag seminar, is on July 7th, Tuesday, from 12 to 1 by John Wolf from Limnotech. And the location is at 980 9th Street. So we go back to the original location. So thank you very much, Amy, for the presentation. That was very informative. So please give our hands